Hi friends, this is Caitlin, and today I'm sharing with you this really fun Rainbow Daisy encouragement card. I'm going to be pairing up this humongous extra large birthday greeting stamp set. We're going to be using that Hope Your Day is the Best Day Ever stamp, and we're pairing it up with this large daisy and 2 leaves from the Oopsy Daisy stamp set. I'm also going to be incorporating the Clouds for Days stencil just to create a little bit of extra interest in the background as well as a ton of embellishments. So I'm going to be starting out by creating my background. So I'm going in with the Salvaged Patina Oxide ink, and I am using the Stamps for Days stencil, which I absolutely love because you can get so many different variations of clouds with this stencil. You get the edges, which are super long, so you can use them for a slimline or an A2 or a mini slimline or whatever you want. And every side has a different cloud pattern, but then you can also flip it over and you would get the reverse of those. So you get 8 different edges. I super sped up my stenciling after the first couple rounds. You also get those individual clouds inside, which I think are super awesome. But for this card, I really just wanted to create layers and layers of cloud. So I am going in, I'm trying to keep most of that color right on the edge of the stencil. So that way they look like nice white puffy clouds versus if you kind of fill up the clouds, you get more of that kind of rainy day look. And I took this all the way down to the bottom. I also ended up going all the way around the bottom and both sides just to kind of fill in and smooth out all of my ink blending on the edge of the cardstock. So this card panel that I'm starting out with is already trimmed down to, I believe it was 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So it's just a tiny bit smaller than an A2 size card. And that is because I'm going to be putting it on a piece of craft cardstock that is a standard A2, which is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So we get a little frame all the way around. So now I am stamping out my flowers, and we are going to need 6 of these. So I stamped one side and then flipped my paper around and stamped it on the other side. And that way I only had to reposition my stamps a couple times. Well, 3 times to be exact. But this method worked out pretty well for me. It made everything go a lot easier. And I did end up stamping, I think, about 8 of those leaves. And I did not use them all. I only used 4. But now that just means I have extra leaves for a future project. So now that everything is stamped out in a Copic friendly ink, I'm going to go in with my Copic markers, and this is really a repetitive process. So I normal sped up the first couple and then I super sped up all the ones after that. So you can still see the color combinations that I used, but you're not stuck here watching me color the same flowers over and over again. So for all of these flowers, I'm going in and I'm working from my darkest shade to my lightest, which is how I generally prefer to use my Copics. If you feel overwhelmed or nervous, you can always start with your lightest and work to darkest and then go back up to lightest. But I am creating kind of a halo around the center of my daisy with my darkest shade, and then going in and flicking the color up and blending it out with that medium shade, and then switching to my lightest shade. So for my red, I ended up using the all of my R's, and I ended up using a 4th shade, but for everything else, I only did 3. So I'll have all of the colors listed that I used today down in the description box for you, as well as all of the rest of the products that I'm using today on this card, especially because when we get to the embellishments, it is kind of a lot. But I am so in love with how this turned out. And my favorite thing is this could be a birthday card if you wanted it to be, or it could absolutely just be any kind of encouragement card, graduation, any kind of special day that someone is celebrating. You can celebrate it with them with this really fun and vibrant card. And you could also switch up the daisies to be whatever color scheme fits your event. I think this would be really sweet as like a graduation and you use the school colors for the daisies, or a birthday and you did their recipient's favorite colors. Anything like that would be super fun. So I am now going in with my oranges, and when I do the center section, I'm kind of creating a C shape with my darkest marker, and then kind of making it bolder and filling it in just about halfway with that medium. And then I take my lightest shade and fill in the entire rest of the circle. And that way you get that nice little bit of highlight up against the darkest part on the edge, but you don't kind of get just a super dark or super light. It has enough contrast there that it balances out with all of those petals. I also think a project like this is absolutely perfect for those nights where maybe you aren't feeling up to making a whole card, but you feel like kind of coloring in front of the TV, or while listening to an audiobook or podcast or whatever it is that you do. I know I can color for a while if I just put on some other crafty YouTube videos in the background. So this would be a great coloring project. You can almost kind of make your own coloring book sheets, and you could just color a ton of these flowers all at once and then go in afterwards and make the rest of your card. So I decided, because I wanted to use a really light kind of yellow green, my YG markers on those leaves, that I didn't want to skip a green kind of flower, but I didn't want it to be the same as the yellow green. So I used one green marker and then two of my BG markers to create kind of a tealy green. And I feel like between that and then the yellow green leaves, green is kind of covered in our rainbow. So I kind of picked a more true blue, and that way it would kind of help that teal push more on the green side than the blue side. And then I went with a true kind of violet purple. I just love the way that all of these colors work together. I think they create such a beautiful rainbow, and I don't know, this card just makes me so happy. So once I had all of my coloring completed, it was time to pull out my die set. I trimmed out all of my little flowers and leaves into individuals first before I ran it through. I also went in, as you can see now, with my white gel pen and just kind of added some dots to the center areas just to break up the color a little bit and add just a tiny bit more detail. So there you go. Now I am cutting up my pieces so that I can run them through my die cut machine one at a time. I just find that if I don't do this and I try to send in more than I'm die cutting in the moment, they tend to just get kind of messy. So I am going to just use some washi tape to hold those dies in place and then run them all through, and we get these beautifully bordered, wonderful flowers that just make me so happy. And I might be biased, obviously, but if you are looking for more crafty inspiration, make sure that you are following Possum Stamps over on Instagram, because the design team is always super hard at work making amazing projects with these products. And I think you would absolutely love all of the stuff that's happening over there. So now I am taking my sentiment from that extra large birthday greeting stamp set, and there is a coordinating die set for this that I definitely, after this project, I definitely want to get. It is on my wish list, but for today I'm just going to be fussy cutting it out, which is also definitely an option all the time. But this is such a cute sentiment. I love how unique kind of the shape is of this. So it says, "Hope your day is the best day ever," and the font on this is absolutely adorable. It has these little white dots through it that just kind of give it a really special kind of like movie marquee feel. I don't know how else to explain it, but it just, it makes me so happy. So I am attaching my background now to that piece of craft cardstock, and I am just kind of lining up where everything's going to go. So I put my sentiment right in the middle, and I am just kind of playing around with making sure that my flowers fit all the way around, that the circle is pretty balanced. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of tape runner, and I'm just going to be placing these but not pushing anything down. And that's going to give me a little bit of time to kind of shift and move things around as I need, because I'm going to be tucking my pieces under one another all the way around in a circle. And I found that until you push that tape runner all the way down, you are not fully committed. You definitely have some time to kind of wiggle and adjust if needed. So for something like this, it was perfect. And then I'm going to end up popping up my sentiment with foam tape. So I'm just holding it there temporarily just to make sure that everything fits. And I'm trying to overlap some of my petals over the edge of my cloud stenciled background so that it hits onto that craft just a little bit. Not enough that it overlaps off of the card, but just enough that it kind of breaks that wall a little bit. I think that just adds a little bit of extra fun detail to the card. And a little bit of extra dimension without having to pop up anything else besides the sentiment. So now I'm going in with some liquid glue, and I am just tucking a couple of those leaves. I did 4 kind of in the corners-ish of the kind of wreath we created, which also makes me think now that if we did this in like a square 6x6 and had a full circle wreath, that would be absolutely beautiful. So I might have to add that to my own list of future card ideas. So now I'm just taking a little bit of really thin 3M foam tape and adding it to the back of my sentiment so that it can be popped up and we can tuck some sequins. So this end part is definitely my favorite part of the entire card. It was a great excuse for me to go through all of my beautiful embellishments that I have from Possum Stamps, because they have a ton of beautiful embellishments. So I have the full rainbow pulled out here. So we're starting out with Peppermint. I just pulled 2 of the reds out. I'm also using Campfire, a couple of the oranges. The next one up is Sunshine, I think it's Sunshine. Again, if I mess up a name, I'll have it down in the description for you. So that I pulled out 3. Then we have Captivating Cactus. I decided to go with some of the more tealy green ones that are a little more see-through, and that way the kind of coloring underneath pops through. We have Something Skies. I'm so sorry. I promise I'll have it down in the description. And then Orchid is the purple. So I grabbed a couple of each of those and attached those down with liquid glue. And that is our project finished. I absolutely love how this card turned out. It makes me so happy, and I hope you're feeling super inspired. I hope that you have an amazing week, and happy crafting from Possum Stamps and me.